2 internets, 2 marketplaces. Traditional domains you already know. Handshake TLDs you truly own. Buy, sell, stake, all in one place. ShakeStation, the best place for Handshake domains and beyond.
I actually only heard about Handshake last year. The mutual friend that Michael and I have was the one that told me about it, and just I've been learning little bits and pieces as we go along. And so I'm really so happy to be here today to talk to you about Nostr and the similarities and the crossovers that can exist or that do exist with Handshake. So my talk today is about building for freedom on these 2 amazing protocols. And one of the things I really want to just start with is the fact that it actually depresses me that so many people have just accepted that our data will be leaked, sold, or even stolen, and that that's just the price of participating in modern digital life. It's the fact that this happens, the fact that people feel that they can't do anything about it. I think it's sometimes also making people complacent. And this is something that we do need to deal with. But to me, some of the biggest issues are around what we can actually achieve with Handshake, with Nostr. And from the little that I've learned, I am getting the understanding that why we need Handshake is to stop things like this, to stop countries or governments banning platforms that we want to use, to stop them putting in place infrastructure that prevents us from using the internet and putting in place laws that do that too, to stop these centralized platforms from deplatforming us. Because Parler went away, and I don't know how many of you might be UK based or if you know what's going on, but I'm in London, and apart from it being the middle of the night here, we're sliding towards a complete surveillance state in the UK. And that slide is speeding up, to be quite honest. It's not good, but most people are still asleep at the wheel when it comes to this kind of thing. Now, it really comes down to a battle between the surveillance state and the rest of us. It's so important that we do need to own our names on the internet. And we also need to be able to communicate privately once people find our home on the internet. Last year, Bitcoin had all-time highs, but if we think about the state of our privacy is at an all-time low. We need to do something about that, and we need to get involved and get other people to see what a dire state that we are actually in. And at the end of the day, we just want the free internet we were promised, right? Naming is solved. You guys have solved it, but communication isn't quite there yet. So from, again, what I've been learning, like Handshake is a realistic instrument. It ensures nobody can take away our domains, our homes on the internet. But what does Nostr do? Nostr ensures that nobody can suppress the information we want to share in our domains and other communication platforms, and that nobody can suppress our ideas, because it's ideas that scare governments. Together, though, if we can actually combine with the powers of Handshake and Nostr combined, we can actually fulfill the promise of Article 19 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And that is so important. So I'm here to talk about this, that you've built something essential, something really special, and Nostr can complete it. So instead of people fighting for freedom on X, all the arguments that people are having about what we should be doing and what freedoms we should have, we can simply start building for freedom on Nostr and disengage from all the noise on the centralized platforms. But what actually is Nostr? Nostr is a protocol. It itself isn't a platform. What does it stand for? Nostr and other stuff transmitted by relays. So social networks, there is a CEO that runs the thing, and they're basically our puppet masters. But with Nostr, we control what we put out, and no one can tell us that we can't. And we can also control what we see. But how do Nostr relays work? They are fairly similar to how Bitcoin nodes work with each other. The relays is just another word for servers. And the more of us that start running relays, the more powerful the network can become, just like with Bitcoin. And anyone can run a relay. A little bit of history about Nostr, though. Nostr came into existence in 2020. By the Bitcoin and Lightning developer Fiat Jaff is the one that wrote the protocol. In 2022, Jack Dorsey donated 14 Bitcoin towards Nostr development. From 23 onwards, pretty high-profile events started happening. And these are just some of the ones listed here: Nostrika, Nostrasia, Nostriga. And then in 2025 and now in 26, we had Nostr, Nostr Valley, and HandyCon. And of course, there'll be many more, and there have been others. I'm not here to list them all, but it's just to explain to you that the ecosystem is vibrant. We just need more people to participate. And to get them to participate, we need to help them understand why we need Nostr in the first place. And on the one side, it's actually fairly easy to get people to see this. So if most of you here are Bitcoiners, you'll have heard of the term orange pilling people. With Nostr, we call it purple pilling people. And it's easier to do that. It's easier to purple pill people than orange pill people, because almost everyone knows the problems with legacy social media, that they're using our attention, they're manipulating our attention, basically just to sell ads and to rage bait us. They have complete control over who can participate and who gets censored. They decide what to show us based on algorithms that have no transparency, even though X is saying that they are changing that. But really, can you believe them? Can we trust them? And the question around trust comes up because everything is centralized. Now, on the Nostr side of things, when we're just talking about the social media experience, there's lots of other stuff we can do with Nostr. So Nostr clients, also just apps, the user can choose their own experience, which app you want to use, if you want to create your own bespoke algorithm, or if you just want to see the posts put out by the people you follow and nobody else. On some of the clients, you can have a bit of both. You can have just the people you follow, and then you can create a separate algorithm. So if you like, I don't know, dog videos, you can make an algorithm that will only show you dog videos. So if that's what you want that day, you can just click that button and say, show me what dog videos have come up on Nostr, or name your poison. It doesn't matter, but you can make your own algorithm. The beauty of it is also that everyone can participate. Censorship is impossible. Now, I had someone say to me last year, but isn't that actually a problem? Anyone can participate, anyone can say whatever they want. What if people say really awful things? And to be honest, the way I see it is that 15% of the world lives under a fair amount of freedoms when it comes to free speech. And most of us who are on this call probably fall into those countries, but 85% of the globe are fighting for their freedoms. It could be freedom to say what they want, or it could be all sorts of freedoms, freedom of religion, freedom of expression. So I would rather have that freedom and not have it be diluted at the risk of getting my feelings hurt than end up as one of those 85% of people in the rest of the planet. I think hurt feelings, or even just desperate sadness, is still better than being told what you can and can't say, because that is such a slippery road. And the only reason any of this is possible on Nostr is because it's decentralized. There is no person who can say, you can't do this, you can't do that, and governments can't stop us either. And I think that is really powerful. But it's not just the social media experience, right? Nostr protects individuals and small businesses from predatory governments and from predatory big businesses. Last year, I don't know if you heard about this, but the Mexican president said that she wanted to get an anti-meme law onto the books. And if passed, it would make it possible to imprison people for up to 6 years for posting memes, GIFs, or videos online that hurt a politician's feelings. So this is the sort of predatory government action that I'm talking about, but there's more. In Europe, you may have heard about chat control. They're trying to bring this legislation in that would basically allow them to look at our chats. And the Danish Minister of Justice actually said this. I'm going to read it out loud because I think when you actually hear it, you realize how crazy it is, even though you can see it just by reading it. I indisputably believe that surveillance creates an increased sense of security. And given that the prerequisite for freedom is security, yes, I believe that more surveillance equates to more freedom. I don't know how they go through these thought experiments in their head, how they convince themselves of these things, but it's mind-boggling. However, it's not just governments, right? Meta, apparently, so this was a story that came out in November, Meta said that they're going to start reading your DMs and any AI chats that you have within their apps. And that in America, that was going to roll out from December. Now, whether that actually happened, because sometimes they put out these stories just to see what the reaction is. And that if the reaction is really strongly against the intended action, they might slow it down for a bit. But it never goes away altogether. It just means that they'll do it more quietly, or they'll find sneakier ways to monitor us and surveil us. Now, I remember reading about this, and the articles said that even if it does happen, it will probably happen slower in Europe and the UK because our laws are different. But again, there was nothing there that said they wouldn't be able to do it, just that it would be harder to do it. So when we're talking about the surveillance state, of course, I've got my UK lens, it's where I live, and it's the things that I see every day. We are hurtling headfirst into a really dystopian place over here. So we need to be able to communicate privately and anonymously. The thing is, Nostr isn't perfect. There are problems with it that are being solved, privacy problems. You may have heard of an app called White Noise. It's being worked on all the time, but it's an app that's been built on top of Nostr. So if you haven't tried it, then download it, give it a go. But there are other apps as well that let you communicate privately. It's not just Nostr. Some of you may be using Matrix, then there's Signal or Molly, and there's Simplex as well. Ultimately, what we need to do is slowly transfer all our communication by opting out of these surveillance apps and then moving in onto these more private apps that you can see here. And we need to do it in the same way that, most of us, I hope most of you, have opted out of fiat as much as possible. We use Bitcoin for that. We need to use these platforms for our communication. So I want to give you some examples now of an example of a predatory business. Now, big centralized businesses can see everything that you're doing or everything that you're doing within your business. So you've, I'm sure, heard of DocuSign. DocuSign really is a big no-no. Why is that? They store all your contracts on their servers, which means they're susceptible to hacks and leaks. And they're actually very proudly advertising that they're using AI to read your contracts, because of course you can use their AI to help you write better contracts. But who's to say that they're not using that same AI to learn about what you're doing and keeping a record of it? And ultimately, if a government comes around and says, we don't want our people making contracts with anyone from, this company or anyone from this other country, if DocuSign wants to keep making money, they will just do whatever this government says. And they do that by removing your access and your ability to build business relationships. So a counterpoint to DocuSign is Sigit. SIGINT is built on top of Nostr. It's encrypted in the browser, fully encrypted, where documents can only be seen and accessed by the named counterparties. Every contract event, so when a contract is created, when a contract is signed, is marked using open timestamps. So, the dates and things like that can't be messed with, which actually means you can build unstoppable business relationships. But the thing is, it's not just this. There's the potential for crossover here. Imagine that your counterparty's identity is verified through their Handshake domain rather than a corporate email or government ID. Now you've got unstoppable contracts between parties with unstoppable identities on unstoppable domains. The entire chain of trust becomes decentralized. Another client that's been built on top of Nostr is called Fanfares, and it's bringing to life what the internet money era of content should have been all along, where people can pay for the content that creators put out, that content being put behind paywalls, and it's encrypted content. So it can't easily be just copy pasted and sent to other people. And at the same time, creators aren't beholden to any advertisers or payment intermediaries. They can create whatever they want to create. And then if you want to see it, you have to pay for it. There's actual value being exchanged rather than this kind of weird situation that we have found ourselves in, where we have become accustomed to just demanding creators' content for free, or at least grumbling about it if they dare to ask us for money. And it also means that digital property rights are being enforced by incentives rather than the state, rather than by laws. So what does that actually mean? So a creator could host their content portal on a Handshake TLD, and that means no platform can deplatform them and no one can seize their domain. Now, when you combine this with Nostr's relay-based distribution and Lightning payments, the creator owns every layer: the name, the content, and the revenue. No one can intercept any of it. And then there's Flotilla Social. It's a Discord-like app where you can build and join communities, but these communities can't be censored or shut down. And also there are no ads on there, and there's no spying. Flotilla is brilliant, but what does it actually mean if we could combine this kind of technology or this kind of functionality with Handshake? The community is hosted on Handshake TLD that's running a Nostr-based communication method, while no DNS seizure can take down the address, no platform moderation policy can silence your conversations with people. And that means you have a full stack of community sovereignty. At the end of the day, what we know is that owning your name is power. Owning your home on the internet is power, but owning your name is power too. And with Nostr, your reputation is your currency. You're identified by what is called your NPub, and everything that you put out under that NPub is attached to you forever. So, one of the things to do with it is the quality of your content is there for people to see, and they will judge for themselves whether they think what you're putting out is any good. And also, you can't just willy-nilly delete stuff. You can sometimes, but people will have seen it, and it's just something to think about. And people will protect their reputation maybe a little bit more carefully than they do now. Even if you're working anonymously, it's really important because you understand that owning your name is power because you're literally buying and owning top-level domains. The NPub is the same idea applied to your personal identity rather than the domain name. Your NPub is a cryptographic identity that no platform can revoke, no government can reassign you, and no corporation can suspend you. And in fact, I think it was in 2024, Decentralizers put out an article about Handshake and Nostr, and this QR code will take you straight to it if you want to have a look. Nostr isn't without its problems. Every protocol has its growing pains. I'm sure you've had them in Handshake as well. And in a lot of cases, the UX just isn't good enough. But we can solve these sorts of problems together by supporting the devs. Nostr apps aren't objectively slower, but sometimes they feel like they are. Sometimes they can be a little bit glitchy. Some people are saying that it's overwhelmingly complex, and that's why we're not getting as many people adopting Nostr-based apps. And there was a time where you would experience data loss in relation to your NPub. So your whole list of people that you're following, that some people were losing that list. But this is why we need to support the FOSS devs to actually improve all of these problems. So if you're the sort of person that wants to support FOSS projects and developers, these are just some examples of projects that are being built on top of Nostr. I'm not going to go through and describe all of them here, but you may have heard of some of them. For example, Glock or Sigit, I mentioned already, Angor, which is a funding protocol built on top of Bitcoin and Nostr. But if you want to find out about more of these, you'll see my QR code in just a second, so you can connect with me on Nostr, and that will be a good way for you to start your own profile on there too. But at the end of the day, I want us to remember that what we're aiming for is a truly free internet. So Handshake for naming, your address can't be seized. Nostr for communication, your voice can't be silenced. Bitcoin and Lightning for payments, so your money can't be frozen. You've built the foundation. Now I think we can work together and build this solid house right on top of it. And here's my QR code. If you scan that, you'll be able to find me on Nostr and connect with me. So it would be great to hear from you. And in the meantime, anyway, for today, I'm actually done. So I hope you found that interesting, and I'm finishing exactly on time, I think.
Yeah,
so
great.
That worked out quite well.
Yeah, it's professional. It's really well done. Cool. I think especially later in the evening, HNS Brokers is professional too, and getting great support. The emojis are overwhelming.
A lot of emoji.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a bug or a feature, but it's great. It's great. And let me check the Q&A tab. Is there a social media platform that is built on Nostr currently live now?
Yeah, there's quite a few of them. So there's one called Amethyst, there's one called Primal, Damus, Nostria. That's just to name a few.
Okay. Yeah, they're saying AJ and Tendo for HNS spokespeople. Thank you. How do you say MSCF?
Amethyst?
Yeah, Amethyst.
Amethyst, yeah.
Woody put the domain Yakihoni,
yes.
Yakihoni.
There's quite a few.
Okay, great.
Any other questions or anything?
I'm scanning the chats.
Okay.
How would you go about educating the public on the value of owning their name, Giovanni Rossi?
So I think rather than the part where you explain to them the actual value of owning their name comes later. The main thing is to talk to them about the problems with social media as it exists now, because whether it's them being afraid of saying what they want to say because here in the UK you'll get arrested, or they're not happy with what the algorithm is showing them, or the fact that their kids are addicted to social media, these sorts of problems most people can understand. So if you can get them on that page with you, then you offer them the solution depending on what their specific problem is. So if it's a case of, the algorithm is the doom scrolling and the algorithm is just keeping me hooked, I don't use the algorithm function on Amethyst. All I see are the posts of the people I follow. And sometimes you're just like, you know what, I don't care what you're saying today. I can't be bothered. I'm just not as addicted to Amethyst as unfortunately I still am to X, because X knows what it's doing. It's learned what's going to keep me scrolling. Whereas on Nostr, that just doesn't exist. I only see the content from the people I follow, and some days you just might not care what one of those people has put out.
I'm scrolling through the chats. I guess some people don't like Unstoppable domains name. There's another company called Unstoppable
Oh,
Domains.
there is? I didn't know that. Sorry.
There's some anger there.
Didn't mean to trigger anyone.
Let me keep reading here. Kudos for not knowing, they said. Yeah, I mean, somebody says Ennis is not as good lately. Emis is not.
Yeah, it's glitchy. Even today it was glitching for me. You just have to have a bit of patience with it. At the end of the day, look, freedom is inconvenient. Freedom comes with friction, but it's worth fighting for.
They're saying Primal works fine. HNS Broker. I don't know if you know that one.
Oh, was that an HNS Broker? Hey, hello.
HNS Broker is here. Yeah, Primal works fine. He just said back. Cool. I think we could. But yeah, like this is a challenge, and we've had other sessions about it too. Centralization is convenient and easy, right?
Yeah.
Nostr, Handshake, all these decentralized tools is more. They have to put more time in as a user to. If we want easy, unfortunately, the centralized is. I'll pose another question. Okay, there are more questions. Okay.
Do you mind if I answer the one about censorship of literature?
Of course, I missed that one maybe, but yeah, go ahead.
It just came through, and I like that question because in my fiat work, which I'm not going to talk about today, it's very different. Ugh. But one of my clients, this was a couple of years ago, we were talking about free speech because I talk about free speech and freedom of expression in some of my fiat work. And a client said, if someone puts out a song that some people find offensive and it's really upsetting to them, then I think it's right to change the content of the song, because that has happened in recent years with some songs. And so I asked her the question, I said, okay, what if you were writing a book, and how would you ensure that you yourself didn't write anything offensive? And even if the only people you were concerned about were the people around this room, your colleagues, the way that this would have to work is you'd have to basically pass around a piece of paper saying to them, tell me the things that upset you and I'll make sure I won't write about it. And what will happen is you'll end up writing the most boring book in the world because you'll be so worried about upsetting someone that you won't let your own creative juices flow. Who cares if someone gets upset by what a song that a person's written or a book that they've written or a film that's got made? If you don't like it, don't watch it. Don't read it. Don't listen to it. It's as simple as that. You don't get to tell other people what they can and can't create just because you've got a sensitivity about something, because everyone's got sensitivity about something. And if we take everybody into account, we'll end up with no art, no culture. And that's what I mean when I said I'd rather get my feelings hurt than live in a place where all of us get told what we can and can't say and what we can and can't create.
Agreed. Yeah, I get a lot of positive. Yeah, I can feel the passion there. There's no Q&A. We're at our time now, but I don't know if these are hard ones. Giovanni's got a couple great ones, or maybe this is a good one. How do you create the COVID crisis to make this the solution?
Oh, to make this the solution? Yeah.
That's a hard one.
Wanting to create a crisis to get the solution that you want, because that crisis might end up taking you in a completely unexpected direction.
True. I think it's what's that called? The frog boiling in the, you feel like that's us. That feels like now we're like, slowly they're increasing the temperature. They're making it boiling. We don't know we're in this boiling stove, and then suddenly we're like, we can't get out, and it's like we're being cooked inside of a pot. Yeah, we're at our time. AJ, how can people? You have your Nostr and pub, right?
And I am on X as well. I have my pseudonymous account on X. I don't use my real name account on X anymore anyway, because
it's dangerous. I think it's dangerous too.
So yeah, I think those details are going to get shared.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, AJ. Have a good evening. And
thank you so much. I'm sorry I couldn't answer all the questions.
No, that's good. That's good. At first, there wasn't many, and then it kept flowing. But thanks everybody for your participation, and that's a wrap. I think.
Okay.
The 6th Handshake Conference, HandyCon White, Building the Sovereign Internet, wouldn't be possible without the generous support of our sponsors. Our platinum sponsors: Easy Domains, ShakeStation, Handshake Swap. Our gold sponsors: USwap. Our community sponsors: Handshake AU, Own the Dot, Namebase. GFAV IP wallet. Powered by Sky Include. Thank you for believing in a decentralized future and empowering this community. Get your free ticket now at 2026.handycon.xyz